Good morning. And how are you doing?
Good morning, Senna, and good morning to the team. Good morning to the listeners as well. Thank you for the opportunity to be on your show today.
And were you in Parliament yesterday, and did you take part in this debate?
Yes, I was, but unfortunately I didn't catch the speaker's eye. But I will say that my views were largely captured in many of the presentations that other colleagues did on the subject.
What are those views? What do you think?
Well, you see, Senna, your introduction, you said something that I also have been reflecting on. Only a couple of years ago, I was in your seat. And the notion I had about people in Parliament have changed because I am living it. I'm now a member of Parliament. And you are right. Sometimes when you see former members of Parliament, you wonder what fate awaits you too. The truth is that I have come to the conclusion that we are like members of Parliament, we are like the pipe that transports water. It is deceived into thinking that it is wet until the day GWCL locks the pipe. When GCWL doesn't supply water, then the pipe realizes that the water that has been passed
Hello, Noble. Hello, Noble. Oh, we have a problem to Noble's line. Eric will get him back on the line and let's continue this conversation. But what do you think? Now, what is being proposed is that we take many of these officers out of the bracket of those who enjoy some way through traffic. That sometimes when they are in their cars and they are headed to Parliament, they typically just put on the sirens, people give them way, and they move. When the speaker is passing by, I think the speaker has one motorcade in front of him. It's the same for the lady Chief Justice. The Chief Justice, one motorcade in front. Question is, there's an attempt to take this away. Let's go and speak to Honorable SUHUYINI once again. You are making a point about how you see members of Parliament.
Yes, so I was just saying that you can liken us to the pipe that transports water to our homes. The pipe can be deceived into thinking that water belongs to it until the day GWCL locks the tap and water doesn't flow. And then it realizes that it's just a mere plastic. And at that point, the level of dryness even hits different. I think that is what is reflected in the life of many members of Parliament that we all have seen and have come to the conclusion that really people don't get rich or become wealthy and remain so just by being members of Parliament. They may have some other, if you know any former member of Parliament who is wealthy or rich, then they may have some other businesses on the side. But having said this, on the issue of the LI and the, the siren, I was of the view, even in the beginning, before the public uproar, that it was needless for that offer to be legislated. There are some courtesies that culturally and societally, socially, let me rather put it socially, our people already extend to offices that they revere. And Member of Parliament office is one of those offices. So you don't legislate on some of these courtesies, because it is out of the goodness of the hearts of our people that even though they may know that it is not a law, but they have no problem with us, enjoying those courtesies. So, for example, if you go to your church or you go to a religious gathering in your community as a member of parliament, there's no law that says that you should be seated in front. And perhaps one of the best seats should be reserved for you. It is just out of the goodness of the heart of our people and the courtesy the respect that they attach to those offices, make it easy for them to extend those courtesies to us. But when you go to parliament and begin to legislate to say that, look, anytime a member of parliament attends a public gathering, he should be seated in front on one of the comfortable seats. At that point, you are simply courting needless, what do you call it? Should I say dislike for yourself? And so I thought that it was unnecessary for members of parliament to be included in that LI. Because, like you said, even though it is not law, some members of parliament already use sirens. And in some cases, in fact, people, when they even identify you in traffic, give you way. Because they assume that you may be going somewhere very important. So why do you want to provoke and annoy people needlessly? So in the beginning, I was of the view that it was a needless introduction. But now, the revised one that seeks to exclude the Speaker of Parliament and the Chief Justice is also, I think, unreasonable. Because you are looking at the heads of those institutions. Why? How can the IGP be entitled to the use of siren? The CDS entitled to the use of siren? In fact, I think even the Commissioner General uses it. And you say that the second arm of government, the leader of the second arm of government, and the leader of the third arm of government should not have that extended to them. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. If you look at our governance structure, I think that even the Chief Justice and the Speaker of Parliament have more defined and role-impacting duties than the Vice President. Look at our Constitution. The kind of roles and duties that are assigned to the Speaker of Parliament, to the Chief Justice in the Constitution, impact our lives. The things they do are more significant to our growth as a country than even the Vice President. And so, you cannot legislate that the President and the Vice President should be entitled to this dispatch, to places that they have to be at, and exclude the leaders of the two arms of government. I think it's unreasonable. I think it's irrational. And I agree with concerns that were raised on the floor with regard to the need to include the Chief Justice and the Speaker of Parliament in this new legislation. But I have no problem at all with members of Parliament being exempted. And I disagree with some of the views expressed by colleagues to the effect that we should be bold enough to show how we really deserve some of these courtesies. They are courtesies. They are earned.
You think that there's no need to make a case for it?
They are earned. Courtesies are earned. They are not demanded. And they are earned based on your performance and your output. your service will let the people extend that courtesy to you. And like I'm saying, for some members of parliament, even in traffic, they are offered dispatch out of traffic by police officers who recognize them. So by your service and by your hard work, there are some courtesies that you will enjoy. And that's where I agree with Mr. Speaker that we must be more responsible in representing the people, in discharging our duties. It is when we accept the responsibilities that people will not also have problems extending us courtesy. I have suggested in the past, and I still think it is something we should consider, that if it is even that necessary for members of parliament to have, this service, and I think it should be available, but should not be available at the individual level. So I've made a suggestion that, look, why don't we even have, numbers of dispatch riders, advantage areas. So, for example, if you are in Accra, you can zone Accra into about 6 zones and locate dispatch riders, because there are police stations all over. So the zoning will take into consideration the police stations that are in the area. And at every police station, you are likely to have at least 1 dispatch rider or 2. So why don't we zone it and make those numbers available to the officers we think sometimes in the discharge of their duties will require dispatch service. So say if I have an urgent business in Parliament and I'm coming from Spintex, I should be able to call a dispatch rider close by to whisk me to wherever I'm going. That way it is regulated. If I'm coming from Medina, I should be able to call a dispatch rider near if I need it. If I need it, and that should be as if you need it. Because it's not every time that you should put on the light, the siren and PPP and be harassing people. But yes, in the discharge of our duties, there are times that you have conflicting programs. And all these programs are in the public interest. Sometimes, like, people are waiting for you at 2 different programs, and they all desire your input. So under a circumstance like that, it may become necessary for you to get assistance to beat the traffic so you can meet both obligations, or sometimes even more than 2. So I'm saying that let us create that opportunity for members of parliament when they need the service of dispatch riders to be able to access them. But let us not legislate it and make it a law that all MPs can install these devices in their vehicles and can use it at will. I think that is offensive to the general public, and it will be foolhardy for us to want to push it down their throat and insist that we deserve it and we must be given, it must be extended to us. I think it is not very smart at all for us to attempt that, because look, we must always remember that the people in power are not more powerful than the power of the people.
Great. Having said that, I'll move into one other issue before I let you go. How long have you been on the Land and Forestry Committee?
Since I went to Parliament, since 2017.
Oh, so you're entering into the 8th year of being on that committee?
Absolutely, yes.
Well, that's quite a long time to be on that committee. And I'm sure your time on this committee is as old as this government being in power and the fight against Galamsey. This morning, on the front page of the Daily Graphic, Professor Stephen Adai is calling for one thing: declare national emergency on Galamsey. What do you think?
Well, like you said, I started as a member of the committee, and I moved to deputy ranking, and to the glory of God and my appreciation to the leadership of Parliament, I'm now ranking of the committee. And so, yes, I've been part and parcel of this government's pretentious attempt to fight the Galamsey menace, which at every point in time, even at some point, let me make the distinction. I think that for 4 years, mining was not under the Land and Forestry Committee, of which I was a member. It used to be under the Mines and Energy. It is only recently that we implemented our new standing orders and changed the name of the committee from Lands and Forestry to Lands and Natural Resources Committee. So now mining has been under the committee only for the last 1 or 2 years. But even as member of the Lands and Forestry Committee, I used to make a lot of comments on this mining, the pretentious fight against this illegal mining. I call it pretentious because they took advantage of a media coalition to draw attention to the threats of the illegal mining that was taking place, to create a vehicle for them to make money for their party. Remember the party here, Sika, recording and all of that. What Professor Stephen Adai is calling for today, in my view, is putting the cart before the horse. Is that how they say it? Or the horse before the cart before the horse?
Yes.
I, together with my colleagues on the Lands and Natural Resources Committee 2 days ago, addressed the press on some of the happenings in the lands and natural resources sector. And one of the things we demanded of the president is for him to address the nation on the state of our environment. It has become very, very necessary. Look, the threats that COVID posed in 2020-2021, that necessitated the president to begin his daily address on COVID. Senna, that threat can be equated today to the threat that this destruction of our environment poses to our very existence. Because COVID was considered serious enough to get the president's daily addresses because it was threatening our very survival. And so today, the environmental destruction that we see, remember the saying that when the last tree dies, the last man dies. And we are told that over 38 of our forest reserves no longer even exist. They have been ravaged by illegal mining. The cocoa sector today is heavily impacted because of this illegal activity. Even potable water is becoming scarce, and the Ghana Water Company Limited and other experts are predicting that we may soon have to import water for use. That 60% of our water bodies are polluted as we speak. The cost of production potable water have in some cases tripled. And even after the production, about 50% of the water process, we are told, is not pumped because of the high acidity levels. This is about our survival. This is about life. This is about the quality of the air around us and the environment in general. And so the president who declared that he was willing to put his presidency on the line, should take time off his busy schedule to address us on the state of our environment and the state of that pledge that he made. It is crucial. It is important. It is, in my view, in that statement that we can all agree or not with the president if he is minded to propose that a state of emergency be declared. But first, he must brief us on the state of our environment so that we can all come to the decision as to whether to have a state of emergency declared or not. That's why I'm saying that Professor Stephen Adai's call is not misplaced, but it is putting the cart before the horse. The first thing that must be done must be for the president to address the nation on the state of our environment. So that is, among other things, the call that we made 2 days ago as members of the Lands and Natural Resources Committee, minority members of the Lands and Natural Resources Committee. We also demanded the dismissal, immediate dismissal, of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources and the Minister for Environment. Why? Because LI 2462, that has permitted mining in our forest reserves, was smuggled through Parliament by the ministry. And that has, heightened the levels of destruction that we currently have in our forest reserves. And so we think it should not just be the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, but the Minister responsible for environment must also go with him. Yes, we know that it will make little impact, but we are counting and hoping. We are counting on the energy of new appointees and hopeful that, this whole failed enterprise of Nana Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia government can still show some little glitter of hope if they find one person or two people to occupy these positions, and those people are minded to create a legacy for themselves. Perhaps we will see some renewed energy and some renewed commitment to the fight. But immediately after the dismissal of these two, we think the president should address the nation on the state of our environment. He can even choose to include the dismissal in the statement. And I think that Ghanaians will be happy, at least for that news alone.
That's an interesting request to make. First of all, the hope of new energy is that it itself not ill-fated, because if you go back to the history itself, there's Samuel Abu Jinapor was supposed to bring new energy. That new energy hasn't led us anywhere after 4 years of the fight against illegal mining. So new energy really doesn't work, does it?
That's why I said hope. We can only hope. Because you see, the best solution is for us to replace the entire government. Unfortunately, our constitution is such that we are stuck with these two clueless leaders, the president and the vice president, until after 90 days or so. We are stuck with them. So even when there is impunity displayed by illegal miners in Konongo, where you have a municipal chief executive who is the chairman of the MUSEC, and you have the regional minister who is the chairman of REXEC, You have the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, who have the Minerals Commission and other agencies under him. The Environmental Protection Agency under the Minister of Environment. And you have all of these appointees. You have an Interior Minister, you have a Defense Minister. And none of them, not the MCE, not the Regional Minister, not the Ministers of State, not the CEOs of the agencies, none of them is held responsible. None of them is sanctioned. None of them is even as much as suspended for tolerating that level of impunity where mining is taking place just by the highway and threatening even in the lifespan of the highway. Nothing happens to any of them. Yes, the best people to have asked to resign would have been the president, the commander-in-chief, together with his vice president. But like I said, by the nature of our constitution, we are stuck with them. We can only hope that in about 90 days, by the grace of God and by our collective determination, we'll rescue this country from their hands. But until then, we can only hope. We can only hope that the president will listen and give us a state of our environment report and hopefully fire these two ministers, and again hopefully find someone who will want to leave a name for himself or herself to use the few remaining days to help clean up. I can only hope. It's not like I am certain about anything, because the whole NPP setup, especially this one led by Nana Akufo-Addo, did not come to, transform anything positively in this country. They just came to loot, to destroy, to vandalize, and to disrespect and show arrogance to the citizens of Ghana. But I can only hope, Sarah.
What can be done within 3 months?
A lot can still be done within 3 months. For example, even legislation to recategorize our mining sector into small scale, medium, and large scale can be done. Parliament is returning somewhere in October. We can do that recategorization because it is important, because when we contemplated small scale mining and large scale mining, the assumption was that small scale miners were going to be those using shovels and head pans and others, and large scale miners were going to be like the Newmont, the Ashanti Gold and others with heavy machinery. We did not anticipate the use of excavators and tipper trucks. Small scale miners, head pans, wheelbarrows, shovels. Today, those engaged in the small scale mining have the capacity to own excavators. And so it's important that we recategorize so that they can become the medium scale miners. And then regulations will be introduced to streamline their operations and activities. But in the current situation, they are operating in a vacuum, largely so, because they are not large scale and they are not small scale in the strict terms. And so regulating them using regulations meant for small scale doesn't give you comprehensive results. And you can also regulate them using the large scale regulations. That is why we have that problem. And I'm saying that in 30 days, a regulation like that can come to recategorize these sectors. Again, in 30 days. And remember, this is what the NDC government is promising to do from 2025. Then again, we can begin to create mining equipment pools in these mining communities. These mining equipment pools, aided by the decision to decentralize the licensing and supervision structure of the Minerals Commission, will make mining equipment readily available to those who can easily access their licenses in their local communities. And it will also make supervision of the use of this equipment easier. So you live in a mining community, you want a concession, a walk to the Minerals Commission office in your locality, and interactions with the district assembly can finalize the allocations to you. And you can walk to the mining equipment pool and procure the services of these mining equipment. And because they are under the custody of the state, they cannot be taken to a site that has not been allocated. And so supervision will be easier. This can still be done in the next 3 months. But I doubt if this government will be willing to do it. But we are assured that the next NDC government will approach this cooperative, or if you like, local community mining in this way. So a lot can still be achieved.
Okay. Okay.
But unfortunately, there is zero commitment from this government when it comes to dealing with the menace head on. All they are interested in is to protect their businesses of their party executives, their party apparatchiks, and, you know, those who are serving the party at various levels. That's all they are interested in, and not the survival of our environment, unfortunately.
Despite this assessment of what the government represents, you still have hope?
Then, when hope is taken from a man, what else does he live for? So yes, you can call it the audacity of hope. You can call it hope on hopelessness. But I still have hope. And that's why I'm still making that demand that the president must address the nation on the state of our environment. And let us know what else is left for him to do. But in the meantime, he must fire his 2 ministers of environment and lands and natural resources. I doubt he will do it. I hope he does.
ALHASSAN, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for making time.
Same here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's our big brother, ALHASSAN SUHUYINI, who is Member of Parliament for Tamale North, now ranking member on the Lands and Natural Resources Committee of Parliament.